just has to return today, huh? There's actually like a warning of sorts just with how much rain there's supposed to be. Some of the predictions said it was actually supposed to be snowing. Probably is, like further north in the mountains and all that. After checking all the footage and stuff yesterday too, I think it ended up pretty okay. Basically, it's obviously not like 4K or anything. I mean, what can you do? You have to use a smaller drone in that situation at the moment. But overall, again, it worked pretty well. That was actually one of the main things I read today. I know you guys mentioned it in the comments where before, like with that Mavic Mini, apparently you can't unlock it to fly in some zones, even though technically, like say here in Canada, you should be able to fly wherever you wish as long as you're, quote, being safe. So basically I was just reading about this update and seeing what it was all about. So this is straight from DJI's note here. It says, what's new in this version? It says, added feature to unlock geo zones requires DJI Fly version 1.04 or later. So that's basically a big one because a lot of people even said they got this thing for like Christmas, for example, and they can't even fly in their own house because they're in a blue zone. So technically this should solve that. One thing to keep in mind though is essentially blue zones and red zones are different, whereas the red zones, they're kind of like restricted in terms of like right in the airport, at least here, like an example, when you look at the Vancouver area. And what I'm thinking too is, because this actually happened to me, even using the bigger drone and getting permission from Nav Canada and all that, I did the self-unlocking around the airport area before I had permission and everything to fly, but then the thing still said, nope, can't take off, because in this thing here, you could be in a blue zone that's actually overlapping in a red zone too, so that's something that you need to check. In that case, it's still a mystery in terms of how someone would actually get that unlocked, because normally you'd have to do the unlocking through an actual email where you email DJI support and then you say, hey, here's my permission to fly in this airport area and all that. Whereas normally like here in Canada with the Nav Canada, technically to fill out that form you need to operate under the advanced license with a qualified drone, and this drone is technically considered as a quote toy like here in Canada. So how would you do that in terms of getting permission and stuff like that? I'm just imagining again if you ask like the Nav Canada, like what is this? Like we don't basically regulate stuff like this, like little toys. Then again, maybe they want something like from the airport saying, oh yeah, we gave them permission because they're helping us do a job or something like that. I don't know, but at the same time, if that is the case and if you're in a house, it still wouldn't work. I wonder if this one will cause some trouble for some people too. It says added feature that disables takeoff when the GPS signal is weak, basically less than 8, and the environment light is not sufficient. This feature can be disabled manually. It makes me think of things like, for example, with the Mavic Mini, technically you could fly it like in nighttime and all that. So I could imagine people being at a distance capturing like fireworks or something like that. So it makes me wonder if this will actually mess it up for some people, although they do say that you can turn it off. This one says, added requirement for compass calibration before takeoff when the environment light is not sufficient and the compass experiences interference. I know for myself, usually if I get like a compass error, even like with the Mavic Pro, like say around stone or something like that, I usually don't calibrate the compass and then take off. I literally physically move somewhere else where I won't get that error. I just think it's better that way personally. This one says adjusted flight altitude and distance in payload mode. That one I don't really get. I'm guessing it's just for like things like the guards or something like that. Added warning prompt for battery cycles. Reduce noise during self-diagnosis after powering on. I guess that's okay. It says fixed issue linking was abnormal in some regions. Well, that's kind of interesting. But there was like an error like that. It makes you wonder why that was the case. Overall, it seems okay. I guess in general, usually when you introduce a fix, it creates some more problems as well. So who knows what else there may be in terms of errors. I actually haven't tested this thing indoors yet. It makes me wonder if I should, since it's raining and all that too. That's actually how I tried to test the Mavic Pro the first time, and indoors it basically went nuts because of the GPS and stuff, I'm assuming. That was actually my first crash, which is kind of weird when you think about it, because you would assume as someone new flying, hey, let's fly it indoors, it's the safest way, right? But apparently it's not, just for the drone, the way it operates with the GPS and all that. Because even in the beginning, I wanted to fly it like in the ATTI mode, but like in the Mavic Pro, you can't actually change it manually. So it basically goes from like the tripod to HDI and then back, and then that's where all the screw up happens from my observations. But so far it's as expected. Essentially, I see this smaller drone as a way to give you, I guess, the freedom of how it was before all these regulations and all that. The only drawback again are things like the picture quality. And I guess just a funny example and observation just of things like hysteria and stuff like that, just from my experience so far, again, the people in the public in general are really open and receptive to it. Even like yesterday, like when people see it, I let them look at the screen, they're just like wow and so forth, and then some people even said, oh man, like I need to get a drone. Whereas like I would say in my mind, like okay, just make sure like you read up on all the rules and stuff, because it's not as straightforward now, since they treat like a lot of the bigger ones over 250 as like an aircraft. At the same time, there was things like what, police officers and stuff over there, they're even seeing it, they're like okay, like whatever. Because for this drone in particular, it's so small too, most people just see it as like okay, wow, like that thing is cute or whatever. The other interesting thing to think about with that contrast anyways is, again, when you read things like the news and stuff like that, or even like say online comments, it seems like for the most part the hysteria and stuff is coming more from that. For example, just reading like about crashes and so forth, or recently like for some reason that story's still like on top of so many news outlets, the one in the US where there's 12 drones or over a dozen of them like hovering around for some reason, you don't know why. Or at the same time, just people acting like a drone police, trying to condemn people for, you know, not doing anything unsafe or anything like that. It just seems like it's a different, complete universe in terms of the information you get online versus, I guess, the reactions and stuff you get in person for the most part. It makes me think too, just with that, I guess, negativity and so forth, like some people have online, like when they drone police people. It makes me wonder if this is like the ultimate troll drone, like at least here in Canada. Because I know sometimes, like just say in various groups and stuff like that, like even like the DJI one, people play it as a joke. For example, they show like a picture of a helicopter and then the guy with the remote control, like, hey, look at my new drone. Like, obviously people know that's a joke. But some other ones, what people usually do is they take like say satellite images or Google Earth, it's really high up in the sky, and they're like, hey, look at the shot I took. And a lot of people would get it like, yeah, right. Well, they just joke sarcastically like, wow, great shot. Whereas some people, they're so quick to jump on there saying, that's illegal, I'm gonna report you, this and this and this and this. And then afterwards they find out, you know, it wasn't like real, like from a drone or anything like that. Makes me wonder if this will be the same thing here. And it'll kind of, I guess, weed out all the people that try to, I guess, stop people from doing something perfectly safe, or at the same time, in my opinion, I think that's just as worse in terms of people creating hysteria, because you're kind of reinforcing the fact that for some reason, this thing is so dangerous, where most people fly it like in a very safe way and all that. For now, it's a great little tool to have. It's basically a great way, as a supplement for me anyways, to have all the advanced license, get the permission and stuff to fly the bigger drone, but in certain situations where this smaller one is going to have to be the choice, it's basically great that way. It makes me kind of think what else I could do, I guess, later in the year, if I could partner up with some events or something like that to capture moments like that. Wow, I actually heard that guy running and stuff, even though I can't see through me here. And dang, the rain today! I don't even have that much archive footage. It's only been one day in the new year since I've flown. I guess it's time for the archive. Alright, see you guys later.